This time on Allies or Enemies, we are talking about Space Station Phoenix. Designed by Gabriel Cohn, Space Station Phoenix is a game for 2 to 4 players that is all about building a space station. But to do so, you need to tear apart the very ships that help you get there in the first place. Part action selection, a little bit track competition, and a lot of engine building, Space Station Phoenix is a competitive and thinky game that has tons of moving parts and sits just on the higher end of the medium Euro spectrum. But before we travel too far into the galaxy, let's look at how it plays.
On each turn in Space Station Phoenix, you will be doing one of two things, either taking actions or taking income turns. But within that, there is a lot of variety. If you take an action, you pay for it with crystals. If it's your own card, you only pay the higher number. If it's an opponent's card, you pay both the higher number to the card and the lower number directly to them as a tax. Then you take the action, which can be building your space station with metal, destroying your action cards to get metal, gaining resources either with card powers or through rolling dice, spending resources to gain alien residents for your station, and increasing your status on the various diplomacy tracks. This last one is important because leading on these tracks gets you bonuses when anyone takes the corresponding action. If you take an income action, which usually happens when you're out of crystals, you gain all of the stuff from your space station, which includes a bunch more crystals, and you clear the crystals off of your cards, making them available to use again. The game ends when someone is either past 40 points or finished their space station, or there are 4 or fewer aliens remaining. Then you add up points from your hub, space station, resources, aliens, and having the most of each different kind of alien or human, and you see who is the greatest intergalactic architect.
There is variability aplenty here. The game comes with 24 different hubs, which all provide different starting resources, in-game powers, and end-game goals, which is a lot when you realize just how different they all are. Then there are also 24 space station sectors of each of the 3 colors, which means 8 sectors in each level and 72 total sectors, which makes for a more than I'm going to be able to calculate right now number of combos. And these will all make a difference to your focus and your goals, as will the ship cards you draft at the start of the game and the actions those provide. But with all those options, we haven't found the game to be too AP inducing. Generally, there will be 2 or 3 things that will feel much more immediate. You need metal to make ships, you need stuff to get aliens, you want to stay on top of at least a couple of those diplomacy tracks. It's an interesting balance of simple decisions in a heavier system that will feel mostly streamlined to seasoned Euro gamers, but could feel pretty daunting to newer gamers or those that aren't adept at fitting those short-term choices into a solid long-term plan.
This is a 2 to 4 player game, and it will feel a bit different at the different player counts. The 2 main points of interaction are the diplomacy board and using other players' shuttle action cards. The diplomacy board has players competing to gain bonuses for the different actions, so whoever's on top of, say, the construction track gains a bonus of gems, points, or resources every single time someone uses a construction action, and that bonus is dependent on where they are on the track. This can obviously be super powerful if more people are using the actions on the tracks that you lead on, though with that comes more competition to keep that lead. The other point is the action cards, as you can play on anyone's shuttle card as long as you pay them for it. Here, more players will obviously mean more actions, which might also mean that you can dismantle some of your cards earlier in the game because you can always just steal your opponent's actions, which makes for some interesting new decisions. There isn't really a best player count here, as the game should work just fine regardless, but the pace and decision space will feel a little bit different.
Space Station Phoenix certainly gives you a lot of stuff in the box, and for the most part, it is pretty good. The cards are all solid, both in terms of quality and usability. They seem sturdy enough to take being used as action spaces, and all of the info is clear enough and big enough that you should be able to see all of your options around the table. The space stations all do their job as well. They could maybe look a bit more space station-y, and the sector colors are a smidge similar at a glance, but function-wise they are clear, and it all has a nice look once you have built the station out. Speaking of not being spacey enough, the aliens could also use a bit more alien-y shapes. The cylinders especially tend to roll away. Some various alien heads or bodies would have added a smidge to the look and maybe make it harder to feel what you're grabbing in setup. Those small qualms aside, the design does put clean iconography and ease of use first, and it does make the game run smoothly.
Space Station Phoenix is very much a Euro game. The theme is there and you will feel it to an extent, but for the most part this is mechanics first, which is not at all a knock. It just means the sort of players that are going to most enjoy this game will be those that like solving those Euro puzzles rather than those that want a real space-themed experience. As far as that puzzle goes, however, it has an interesting flow because you have the largest pool of options at the start of the game, and that dwindles as you tear apart your shuttles for parts. There's a real feel of first building your engine/space station in the first half of the game and then running that engine and living off the spoils in the second half. We have also had very different experiences each game that we've played, with some games being races to that 40-point endgame trigger and others being more methodical building competitions or even marathon races to gather aliens. Generally, we have preferred the games where we've had some time to build, but it's interesting that the experience can shift so much depending on the variability of what hubs come out. The gamers that will most enjoy Space Station Phoenix will be those that like a mid-weight Euro with some interesting planning and are okay with some light interaction and keeping tabs on a few boards at once. This isn't one that you're going to play with newbies, but for an experienced gamer group that likes a bit of a puzzle, this could be a solid fit. And that is it. Have you played Space Station Phoenix? What did you think? And what other 2022 games are you excited about? And as always, please do comment and like and subscribe, and hopefully we will see you all next time for another game.